0, 1.
Let's get started.
It is time, and welcome back to this week's episode of the NBA Fantasy Recap Show, brought to you by DBOB. Don't bet on birds. I'm your host.
What it do, gang? It's your boy, Slim Bayless. No Eric E. Smith today. He's up the way running daddy daycare in Westfield, so you're stuck with me. But I'm going to make this one pretty quick, and I'm going to skip a pretty big part of this one in last week's matchups. We're just going to move right through it. I'm going to highlight one, because I thought it was a big matchup, was the Connor For Real versus Hung Dolph. Connor For Real narrowly escapes with the victory there and pushes him up in the standings. But I didn't really want to get bogged down in last week's matchups. There were only a few of them that really mattered as we're moving down these last couple weeks of the season. And All-Star break, I thought, was just boo-boo. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of these whack All-Star games, and I'm ready to move on. So here, that's what we're doing. Maybe it's an unpopular opinion, but I hope not. Again, congrats to Connor For Real. He's going to move up in the standings, which I want to go ahead and just take a look at right now. In the standings, we have 3 teams now clinched. Today we've got, or after last week rather, is myself and Eric clinched. But you see a pretty big division in the top 4 teams from that 5th, 6th place spot. There's a 2-team tie in 6th place, but starting at the top of the bloodbath at 14-3 on a 9-week winning streak is Daniel Velasquez and Team Slim Shady. He's got the most points by about 500 points, 700 points, and he's been holding on to that number 1 spot for a while. I'm right there, firm number 2 spot, 1-809 with it, 13-4, 8 weeks in a row with a W. And also Eric clinched in 3rd place there at 12-5. He just lost this past week to Wow, My Team Is Soft. So Dakota's sitting firmly in the 4th place spot at 11-6. And then you get to 5th place, Connor For Real by himself, 9-8. He's out of that tie position. But you have a 2-way tie in 6th place in Bozo Makers and Hung Dolph, both at 8-9. Either one of these teams could make a push for the playoffs, although Boilermakers is favored in the playoff percentage. He's got a 51% chance of making the playoffs, whereas Hung Dolph is at a much slimmer 32%. So we'll be looking at that. 8th place is a 2-way tie between Coach Kawhi and Saboner and CJ Livingston and Jesse Cochran's Jimmy B in the injuries. Lost identity for Jesse Cochran. He kind of fumbled the bag this week. This was his one chance to really maybe make a push for the playoffs. I think he's down to a 7% chance of making it, while CJ bumps up to a 27% chance of making it. That's got to be CJ's best odds of the season so far to make the playoffs. So that's kind of cool to see a late push from the kid. Somehow Chance has not been eliminated from the playoffs, but he is down there at 5-12 in 10th place. He has a 1% chance of making it. Pretty sure everybody in front of him would have to lose. He'd have to win everything, and very, very bizarre situation for Chance to make the playoffs here. But apparently it's possible. So he has not been eliminated, but we do have 2 teams eliminated in Team Wet Boy Nation. Jacob Amrine and Jorge Velasquez both eliminated after 17 weeks, 14-3, lost the last 5. Better luck next year. Been a tough run for Jorge for sure. I want to say Wet Boy kind of dropped the ball a little more in terms of not setting lineups and whatever's happening there. But Jorge definitely got killed in some injuries. Wemby's down for the season, so no matter how hard he would have tried from the get-go, this would have crushed his spirit. So in all actuality, maybe he dodged a bullet on a heartbreak season from Victor Wembanyama. But I want to move straight from the standings right into the matchups that we're looking at this week. Again, we are coming down the wire here to the playoffs. We have just a few weeks away. After this week, there are only 2 more matchups, so 3 full matchups in whole left before the playoffs begin. So let's look at the scoreboard right now. Of course, it's all zeros, but we've got myself and Connor for real. This is a matchup I'd like to win because I kind of want to have that bye week. I'm not holding back on. I don't want to lose, but I think it means a lot more for Connor to win this game. He needs to maintain those wins to keep that 5th place cushion that he has. The only way to continue to keep that cushion is going to be to win. So, good luck to Connor in beating me. I think Connor put up some points last week, but I still outscored him by so many hundreds. I probably got myself winning this one by 200 points, but Connor's sneaky, and it's never mattered more than it does right now. So I can't really count him out. But we'll see. We've got Hung Dolph versus Slim Shady this week. Again, I think Daniel shares a similar mindset that I have. He just wants to win, or doesn't want to lose, rather. More than you want to win, you just don't want to lose sometimes. But this is another one of those matchups that Grimes has got to win. If he wants any playoff action, if he wants to sniff the playoffs at all, he's going to have to beat Daniel this week. Daniel 9 straight, he's 14-3. Hung Dolph 8-9, but maybe this Hung Dolph situation is a new identity for Steven Grimes here past the All-Star break. We'll see. Maybe he's got some sneaky firepower amongst all those injuries that he's got, or maybe not. But we'll see what's shaking out here. I've got Daniel probably winning that one by 350 points. Sorry, gang. Wet Boy Nation versus Wow My Team is Soft. Should be a bye week for Wow My Team is Soft. Wet Boy Nation didn't really set his lineup against me last week, although if he would have, I might have lost. And I might have definitely been sweating the matchup a little more than I was. He left a lot of points on the bench over the course of the week. That's been the story of the season for Wet Boy. I think he would have won 3 or 4 matchups and been in a much different position had he been watching that lineup all week. That being said, I've got Dakota winning this one by about 600. I have Franz versus Team Velasquez. Another bye week here. I'd like to see Eric have to, beat somebody a little more difficult. But Jorge's kind of, again, given up on this season. Rightfully so. He has been eliminated from playoff contention. I don't see this being any bit of a challenge for Eric. CJ beat him by 600, 800 points last week. I think I've got Eric maybe beating Jorge here by 800, 1,000 points, maybe. 800 is a lot. 1,000 is a lot. 600 to 800. I'm going to put it at 650. I think Eric beats Jorge this week by 650. And definitely easy cover there if Giannis is playing and Eric's at full strength like he should be. Giannis has been on a bizarre minutes restriction. It's been kind of holding Eric back a little bit, but he definitely could have used the full strength Giannis last week against Dakota. But again, we'll see what we got. Chase Chuchos versus Coach Kawhi and Saboner. Chance is going to want to win. CJ's going to want to win. Of course, both these teams are holding on to that little slim chance that maybe they could slide up into the playoffs. But I think it actually depends on this matchup for both of them. So whichever one wins this playoffs, or this matchup between Chanks, Chuchos, and CJ, whoever wins this matchup, I think is going to be in the position to continue that crazy chase for 6th place, and the other one will be eliminated. Although I don't think CJ would truly be eliminated if Chance wins this matchup, I do think Chance would be eliminated for sure if CJ won this matchup. So I think Chance has been playing at a high rate the past few weeks, although he's lost some matchups. I got CJ winning this one by about 350. But I do like the way that Chance has been playing late in the season, not throwing in the towel. It's still fun to play, and I'm seeing that from Chance. It's added a lot add a lot of excitement for the league for me as we kind of run down to the end of the season here and watching these guys that are at the bottom still not giving up. I love that. And lastly, we have the Brothers Bowl. The Cochran Bowl is back. We have Jimmy B in the injuries versus Bozo Makers. I think Jesse's on the verge of just giving up. I think he's tired of letting himself down. But you know what? You'd really be letting yourself down if you just let your brother beat you. So I can't imagine that this is going to be... I mean, if it were me, I ain't letting my brother beat me. Shit, I can't really even let my brother talk to me. But, you know, it is what it is. I got Bozo Makers about 180. I think Jesse, with Luka and shit like that, I think Jesse will forget to set his lineup a couple days. But I think Luka will have those Luka nights, and I think this could be this might be the closest of the week. That would be my prediction, to see what these guys can kind of pan out to. I don't know. Yeah, 180 points for Team Boilermakers there would be the spread that I'm thinking. But, guys, I'm sorry to just power through this recap. But this one, to me, this is a pretty pivotal week for how these matchups go. We'll go a little more in depth into things next week as we kind of know how the playoff picture is shaking out. But if you look at that right now in your app, you'll see Slim Shady number 1, myself number 2, both with a bye week. 3 and 4 are Eric and then Dakota. And 5 and 6 right now on the playoff bracket are Connor For Real in 5th. 6th place is Bozo Makers, as he has a point lead over Steven Grimes in that 6th place tie. Just to kind of backtrack in a stupid way here, if you look at the scores from last week, there were a few teams that cover that the 2,000 point threshold. Of course, we had 9 days of games, so it's not quite as impressive this week. But if you look at the teams that did score 2,000 points, they are kind of our clear-cut contenders for the title here. You've got me with 2186. You have Daniel with 2472. That would be our high point man and team of the week. Dakota at 2325 and Eric at 2190. If I were going to do awards this week, which I guess I'm doing them now, I would have matchup of the week as I have Franz versus Wow, my team is soft. I would have manager of the week, team of the week as Daniel Velasquez. I would have manager of the week as probably either Connor For Real or Dakota. I think Dakota played the wire pretty well. Smart. He's got a high firepower team though. I think Connor maybe made it. Connor, Dakota, whoever you want, man. You take one or the other for manager of the week. You got Bozo of the week, 100% Jesse Cochran. And player of the week, kind of want to say Miles Bridges just for having that night, but it's hard to gauge because everybody's so, they played so many extra games. I got to give it to SGA. 320-point week from SGA. He outscored Jokic. 330-point week for SGA. I apologize. Daniel also got 300 points out of Evan Mobley this week. Mobley was another guy that was a difference maker in general for that team. Daniel had a great pickup in the Frenchman Richachet. I don't know, man. I've got Shea for sure in player of the week, but I'm looking at this dude and I am just itching. I want to get through some of these matchups. We want to get, kind of see how this playoff picture sorts out. It's been pretty consistent the whole year, but we're coming down to the wire for that battle for the 6th place spot. And really, it's that 5th and 6th place. It's very possible Connor For Real slides. If I can beat him, this week. I'm sorry to be sniffling on you fuckers, but Connor For Real's schedule right now, he's got me, then Dakota, then Jorge. So with back-to-back matchups against me and then Dakota, is that going to help you make the playoffs? Jorge, you've got a bye week there, so It'll help you sneak in if you can win these next two, Connor, but that's what it's going to have to be for you. And not really a walk in the park for Grimes either. Grimes has Slim Shady this week, Bozo Makers next week, who is in that hunt for that spot, and Coach Kawhi and Sabonis the week after that. Again, a guy who's in the hunt for that sixth place, fifth place spot. Grimes has got some very pivotal matchups here. I can't imagine how hard that could be to go through these stressful weeks of even making the playoffs. Then you make that sixth place spot, and then you got to go through the playoffs. This is going to be a doozy of a few weeks for whoever can connect those dots to get there. Let's look at Bozo Maker's schedule here real quick. Jimmy B, Steven Grimes, and myself. I really have no predictions. Like, there's nothing really standing out to me for who's gonna slide into those positions in the playoffs here. Part of me wants to think it's gonna be Boilermakers because he played a pretty good first half of the season, but at the same time, without Jalen Johnson, I'm not really that scared of his team. It's got Jokic, but other than that, nobody. So Steven Grimes, his team is hurt. Connor for real, I think, is going to firmly hang out in that fifth or sixth place spot. It's going to kind of boil down to your guys' matchups, man. Like, who can beat who? And if I had to predict who fifth and sixth would be right now, I would think it would be Connor for real and Bozo Makers, just like it is. It's tough to count Grimes out. Grimes has got a little touch of the tism for this fantasy shit, and we've seen that. He doesn't really know shit about basketball, but he kind of seems like he does, doesn't he? So we'll see. I'm excited to get this, obviously powering through it. I'm very excited to get this recap over with, but I'm very excited to see what we're going to be looking at in next week's recap. But that being said, guys, again, thanks for letting me just get this one over with. Shortest recap of the year. For the longest week, the longest matchup of the season. It doesn't really add up, but I'm not going to get too analytical about this one this week. I'm going to save some of that for next week. I'll probably be able to get Eric back on board for these fucking recaps next week. So we'll plan for that. We'll push for that. And trade deadline is coming up on the 28th. That is the end of this week. I think that's Friday. You need to have any trades in by noon. I made a trade this weekend, and everybody was kind of bent out. Not everybody, a couple guys were kind of bent out of shape about it. Wasn't really understanding why. Doesn't give me that much of a crazy advantage to save a matchup acquisition for this week, though. I presented the trade on Thursday last week. Jesse's got to get out this fucking satellite computer to accept the shit. 24 hours later on Friday, he accepts the trade. I'm looking at it on Saturday, and I'm like, dude, I'd love to get this shit over with, use the matchup acquisition here and not in next week's matchup, and just like wrap it up. Everybody kind of got bent out of shape, and I acquired Naz Reid and Kaishan George. Both kind of a gamble. Naz Reid will go, but his production will go right back down when Gobert's back, especially when Randall's back. And Kaishan George is a gamble. I've been chasing him all year. I kind of like how he's playing with the Wizards. So I just sat him on Sunday. So if you had any reservations or any weird feelings about my trade that I made on Sunday and pushed through a little bit early, first of all, inquire within. What's your deal? Why you got a problem with yourself? And second of all, just know that I pretty much made that a non-factor for whatever issue that could have been for you, other than I maintain my matchup acquisitions. But yeah, happy Monday, gang. We're going to be doing this shit a few more weeks. Then we hit the playoffs, and then we're going to take a little break and come back next year and do it again. That's all I got, gang. And don't forget, don't bet on birds.